Here's a sneak peek for this week's episode.
I think Cairo should be on everyone's bucket list.
I'm Scott.
And I'm Melissa.
And we are the Sunshine Travelers. Our passion is travel and sharing our experiences with those who enjoy it as much as we do, or those who want to learn more about travel, or even those who just want to live vicariously through our travel stories. No matter where you fall along that journey, get ready to hear about our firsthand experiences as we visit some of the most interesting and amazing places on Earth. In this week's episode, we are starting to plan a trip to Cairo, Egypt later this year. Egypt is a destination that we've been wanting to visit for a long time, but we haven't done any research yet. Fortunately, we know someone who's been there, and we're excited to learn what we need to know before going. Join us as we discover what to do, what to expect, and where to stay while in Cairo. Pack your bags and get ready for an adventure. Well, Melissa, it's been a minute since we've been here in the recording studio. We did a lot of work leading up to our trip, but now we're back here and recording again. And, we had a great time with our family as we traveled to Europe and got to experience the eyes of travel through young kids and family. So it was just a really good trip.
Yeah, it really was amazing. I'm so thankful that they asked us to, come along, and, a lot of it is just to help navigate. It would be a lot to do that, with young kids and, rental cars and trains and all that stuff. But I think everybody did phenomenal. I really think that the kids did maybe exponentially better than I thought that they would. They just really rose to the occasion. And what's funny is that here we are 22 hours or so traveling home, 3 flights, and the 2-year-old is like, I want to get on another airplane. We're just like, we want to go to bed. It was just, he was, roaring to go, and he'd had some, sleep on the plane. But I would just say to anybody, if you ever have the opportunity to do this, it doesn't matter if it's to Disney World or if it's a cruise or if it's something to Europe like we did or whatever. If you have the opportunity to take a trip with your family, then do it. Make it happen. Because I think those memories, when I think about those memories and then also other trips that we have done, that is some of the best memories that we have. And so stay tuned, because in the episodes to come, we are definitely going to share more and then share some more tips. We've already started, writing out some content and some blog content where we really started thinking about, what were some of the things that we did on this trip to, help it be a success. So we'll share that really soon.
Yeah, we got a lot of content coming up. So
yes.
I don't know about you, but I can't believe that we're almost in May already.
Yeah, I can't either. I mean, thinking about it, it seems like, April just started, but now we're halfway through. And so, yeah, it'll be May, and we'll be talking about summer destinations, and, everybody will be on their summer travels. And our daughter said, man, then the summer seems to slip by, and you're just like, wait, back up. Like, it hasn't even started yet, but it really does seem to go fast. And so just, as you plan that. And one thing I try to do on the trip is just take a deep breath and just say, oh my gosh, like, be in the moment and savor the moment. Here we are in London, and just taking all that in, because that is something that we had wanted to do with the kids. The kids had read little storybooks about the London Eye and stuff.
They've been talking about the London Eye since they could talk.
Right. They have. And so just thinking about, like, we're actually here, we're actually on the London Eye. We are in Germany, with the exchange family that you've known forever, and thinking about the little one, Rhodes, being the same age as when we took Carrie the first time, and just taking a pause and just soaking that in. And so when you travel, just taking the time to do that, and then just thinking, we're in Greece and we're in these beautiful places, and just taking some time to just be present in the moment.
Well, I think I'm going to have to cut you off, because those are future episodes for us. And so to bring it back in, before we left, we talked about booking our travel and going to Africa for a safari later this year. And one of the things that we did is we booked a trip to Cairo as kind of our positioning to get into Africa. So today we want to talk a little bit about Cairo, but this is something we don't really have any experience with this. As usual, we dialed up a friend and said, "Hey, tell us what you know about Cairo."
Yes. And actually, this came about because we're actually talking with our guest today on another trip that we were on. You were on a trip for work that I got to come along on. And just in some downtime and some free time, she was talking about going to Cairo. And so she is someone who has been to tons of places. You mentioned somewhere and she was like, "Oh, yeah, we went there." And as you'll learn here, it was actually part of a bigger trip for her as well. And so I have a couple of other things right before we jump into this that I wanted to say. You mentioned in the intro that this is somewhere that had been on our bucket list. I think that Cairo is one of those places that is just on your bucket list. I don't know that it was on our listed bucket list where we have it where we check off. Would you agree? I don't think that Egypt or Cairo is on there. But I think that Cairo is one of those places where it's just like, that is on your list, right? Because that's one of the things that you want to see.
I'm trying to think back. We're going to have to pull up the picture of our chalkboard wall. And I'm trying to remember if Egypt was on there in the pyramids. Because I think you're right. Everybody's like, "Oh, yeah, I'd love to see the pyramids."
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know. Second thing is, I don't know if we have talked about this, how this booking this Cairo part came about. Have we talked about this?
Yeah, we talked about it in the travel hack.
Okay. So you'll have to go listen to the travel hacks to see why in the world then we're going to Cairo.
Well, let's get started and jump straight into the interview with Tanya. Today, we are joined by a friend of ours and my coworker, Tanya. I didn't realize that Tanya was such an avid traveler until one Monday we were sitting around talking. And she made a trip to Spain or somewhere like that over the weekend for a quick celebration. And so that's when I knew that Tanya was definitely a traveler. Welcome to the show, Tanya.
Hello.
Do you remember that conversation that we were having?
Yeah, I do remember that conversation.
Do you remember where it was you had gone? Because I was like, you don't just go there for the weekend.
Yeah, I know. And actually, Spain is one of my favorite places, especially Barcelona and Malaga. Both of those places in Spain are one of my favorites. So I do frequent those places a lot.
Yeah, we love Barcelona ourselves.
Yeah, we love Spain.
So we wanted to talk to you because you've been to a location that's on our bucket list, which is Cairo, Egypt.
Well, let's back up for a second. So Tanya, you have traveled a lot. You have been to a lot of places. And, as we have spent time together, we've talked about a lot of those places. You had given us some recommendations for Aruba. And we had specifically asked you, should we go to the Flamingo Beach? And so we were just chatting and said, you know what? We need to have you on the podcast. You have traveled to so many places. And we kind of said, okay, where do you want to talk about? We had sort of thrown around the idea of Southeast Asia. And then I guess probably the next day is when all of a sudden, instead of going to Morocco, when we go on the safari, here we are out of the blue going to Egypt. And when we spent time together, I guess back last fall, you had told me all about your trip to Egypt. And so I was like, oh, we've got to get some more details from Tanya specifically about Egypt. So that's kind of how this particular conversation came about.
Yes. So that's exactly how it unfolded, Melissa. Because you were like, "Have you been to Asia?" And I told you about Seoul, Korea, Singapore, Phuket, like those places that I had been. And then you mentioned Egypt. You mentioned Cairo, and I was like, "Oh, I've been there too." Yeah. And then I told you about we have been in that region. So you're exactly right. Yep.
So was this something that was on your bucket list, or did you just, it was one of those trips where you were kind of in the region and so you decided to pop into Cairo? I mean, how did you get there?
So it was definitely on my bucket list, but our reason for going was friends of ours renewed their vows, and they did it in Cairo, 25 years. So they have been high school sweethearts, and they have kids and family and things like that. and they wanted to renew their vows in Cairo. And so we're like, oh yeah, oh, we'll be there. Like we were excited to be a part of the celebration and things like that. So it was to celebrate them, and it was also to check it off of our list.
We got to get better friends, Melissa. Ours only invite us down to Savannah.
That's true. That is really cool. Like, first of all, I've never heard of anybody like saying we're going to go to Cairo to do this and to get to go along. That is really awesome.
So they toured other places, other regions and things like that in Egypt. But so we only, like, majority of the friends came on the Cairo part, and then celebrated with them, renewed the vows. We had the renewal at the hotel that they selected, and then they went on to tour other parts of that region, and then we extended the trip to go to other places, and that's how we landed in Casablanca and Marrakesh after we left Cairo.
Sounds like that you travel like we do.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna spend that much time on the plane and not go and explore other places. Like I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, that's true. And that's exactly how, I mean, most people would be like, wait a minute, you're going on African safari, but you're going to go to Egypt first. Like it's just African safari enough. So here we are. So yes, that sounds very much like us.
Well, several times when we were in Lisbon, the one time we were at the Rock of Gibraltar, right? And I just said, it's right there. Let's just go across.
Yes.
So that's, I guess that's kind of the way Egypt is as well. It's just right there.
Yeah. So, do have a story on getting there, though.
Okay.
The plan was for us to come from Atlanta to go to JFK. So the first stop was Tel Aviv. We were going to go to Tel Aviv, and Tel Aviv has this beach scene that's supposed to be like Miami, and everybody was enjoying it and things like that. And this travel season was when that happened, when was it? The year before last. It was a heavy travel season. So literally, we were at JFK. Our flight was to Tel Aviv to meet our friends. Was not supposed to leave out to like 11 p.m. or something like that. It's a late flight going out of JFK. And the plane came and we were boarding and stuff like that. And the aircraft crew said they were tired and they didn't want to fly anymore. And we didn't fly out.
Oh, wow.
And
what do you do then?
like literally, Scott, I have never experienced this. They were done. They were like, no, we're not doing it.
Who were you flying by chance?
Delta.
Okay. All right.
It was Delta.
That explains a lot.
So like we had to deplane. We were on the flight.
Oh, wow.
At JFK. So we had to deplane, which we did. And we were waiting for our bags and things like that. And then because it was so late, we tried to find a hotel. We didn't. And we were waiting for our bags. We spent the night in the airport. The hotels were booked and things like that. So this is not the first time. Like JFK and that region didn't have any rooms. So we had to change our flight. So we ended up, I don't know, I realized I had with one of my credit cards, I realized I had could go into one of the, I don't even know what you call those things.
Lounges?
One of the lounges with one of my credit cards. So we did that, and we got our bags, went to one of the lounges, and went out the next day. But we ended up going to Athens instead of Tel Aviv. So we didn't make it to Tel Aviv. So Tel Aviv was supposed to be a day for us to like just hang it out the beach and like enjoy ourselves and stuff like that. So we missed that part. And so Tel Aviv was also on my bucket list.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to do that, but our friends did because of how we decided to travel. We didn't get to do Tel Aviv. So we went through Athens, which we had already been to, but I love it. Food is great. Oh my God. The time we spent in Greece is amazing. So I wasn't opposed to it.
Right. So you actually spent a day or so there on the way then still?
Yeah. So we went to so we had to change our flights to Greece and spent the night in Greece. So we only had one day. And and then we met up with everyone in Cairo.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know, I just read recently that Virgin is announcing flights from the UK to Israel for 28,000 round trip, 28,000 miles. If you can get over to Europe, 28,000 miles on Virgin.
Yeah.
You can go to Israel.
I've never traveled on Virgin. Have you guys?
Yeah, we fly Virgin often. We're going to the UK. So we're going to London.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be a Delta flight, but it'll be purchased on Delta, but it'll actually end up being a Virgin flight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Air France going to Paris.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Virgin is very nice. It's a very good experience.
Yeah.
So if you have the opportunity to do that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Cairo and what should we do while we're in Cairo?
So in Cairo itself, I think probably 3 days is enough.
Okay. And I think that's pretty much what we're gonna have. I think it's like 5 nights, but one of them is really, we won't get there till the next morning. So I think that's what we have. So perfect.
Yeah. So it's not beautiful. That's one. But when I think about beauty, I think about the structure and the architecture. And so I'm such a nerd. I do tech and I like architecture. So I was going to do either or. So I was either going to do what I do, which is tech, or I was going to be an architect.
Okay.
And yeah.
And never did you know that you were actually going to be a technical architect then?
So I'm a technical architect, apparently. So Cairo is not, oh, it's so beautiful. Oh, it's so this. It's not. No, it is. Oh my God, where have I landed?
Okay. Oh. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen those pictures yet.
I can send them. So it's when you land in Cairo, and we had a handler or driver, whatever you want to call them. It's like, I don't even know the correct name to say. In the airport, we did our visas and things like that. And so they helped us with that. And I can give you his name. His name is Adam. Actually, I was on WhatsApp with him this week. And so you have to have a visa. So he helped us with that process, and he was our driver and things like that. And then I realized once we exited the airport, I realized why we needed that. This is not somewhere you want to drive, rent a car, and have someone who and try to maneuver yourself. This is something you want to have a handler or a driver, whatever they call themselves. And
so is this kind of like landing in India? And
so I haven't been to India, but probably yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So then when you get out of the airport and you see the streets, and it's camels, it's poverty, and it's not good. And then half of the building is blown away, and half of the building is people are living in it, and it's despair. So you see all of that. And you're like, oh my, that part of it. But then you see the glory of what you envisioned as far as the history of the place. And it's magical. And when you check into your hotel, I mean, they have heavy security check-ins into the hotels. They have heavy security anywhere tourists are going to go. So it has to be for a reason, right? And not to make us feel important, but I'm thinking it has to be for a reason. So, and that's the part of the region that people don't tell you about, that you need someone to, when you're going and coming, that knows the area to take you back and forth, because it's really not a safe city, but it's beautiful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So you really see the juxtaposition, I guess, in the travel experience, but then also just knowing. I mean, it was one of the things that we talked about when we did our episode on Morocco. Ashlyn, the young lady that we interviewed, really said the same thing, is that they felt more comfortable. They traveled a lot throughout the country, that they just felt more comfortable, having that driver, that handler to just be there to, help them, to teach them about the culture. So I guess that's really one thing too, is then that you have somebody to ask questions of and to really learn more about than you would if you were on your own. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, but I'm going to just say that I don't think I would have felt safe if we didn't have him.
Okay. That's really good to know.
That is good to know.
Yeah.
And Marrakesh as well, I felt safe having someone too.
I mean, I
Right.
can tell you from traveling to India many times myself, it was always better when we had a local with us, and someone who was there as our guide and kind of looking after us and understanding. And then, the times where we kind of ventured out on our own, we kind of wished we had a local with us. And so, I mean, I understand that.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So the person that you're talking about, well, that may be somebody that we want to, if you could share that information with us. We've had another person who has shared a couple of people, but of course they may be tied up, just so that we can, have a contact to.
No, so yeah, actually I went on WhatsApp and I pinged him and told him that you all were coming over with your family. And I told him that I was recommending him. His name is Adam. It's probably American name, but his English was great. He talked about places that typically people want to hit, that's on their bucket list. But he also was open to, hey, what do you guys want to do? What have you researched and things like that. So he was great in that aspect. So it wasn't about, hey, I'm going to take you to the typical places. It was, I'm going to take you to the typical places, and that's the pyramids and tombs and all that kind of stuff. But it was also, do you want to go on the Nile? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And so he catered it to us. Like I said, I'm such a nerd. So we end up going to in Cairo, and I don't know how to pronounce it, the Pipus paper, the art, the paper that they do their
Iris.
Pyrus.
Yeah.
So he took us to a place that shows you how how they make it, the paper, and they put the art on there and the ink and stuff like that, and some of the ink glows in the dark. It depends. So we brought artwork back, and I don't have it at the background now because I haven't got frames for it, and you can travel with it on your journey and stuff like that. And I did, and I brought it home. So like different stuff. So we went to that museum, and the artwork was so beautiful. Oh God, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. Yeah, and that's good that you see the things that you kind of are there to see, but then to have some other suggestions and recommendations.
Let's talk about what are those things that you're there to see. So you kind of mentioned the pyramids and the tombs, but tell us a little bit more about that, because I think most people, when they think Egypt, that's what they're thinking about, and they want to hear about that experience.
So yeah, so like I said, we were there, I think 3 days and 2 nights, whatever. We had dinner and stuff like that. But going to see the pyramids. So of course they have tourist stuff. You can like go there by chariot. You could ride camelback, which I didn't do. I was like, I'm not getting ready to get on the camel's back with those little ankles. I was not getting ready to have that camel take me up the road to the, yeah, I didn't do that part. And so I did go by chariot, but
Oh, wow.
go to the pyramids. And so the pyramids were beautiful, and they tell you about the history of each pyramid. And I'm not going to tell, I don't know if I tell you too much and then you already know. So there's a history.
Well, you got to give us enough to make people want
Okay,
to
so
go.
there's a history around the size of the pyramids. That's what I'm going to say
Okay.
without saying.
Oh, this is probably exactly the conversation my son-in-law and I were having this past weekend about how it's just amazing that the blocks in the pyramid are like within millimeters of, being identical to one another.
Yeah.
Like, how did they do this without modern equipment and tooling and stuff like that?
Oh my God, my hands. So there's a history around the sizes. So I'll leave that, and I won't say why. We went into tombs on some of the sites where we literally had to like crawl into. And then when you get into that, and then the scripts on the wall tell the story about what happened, and the hieroglyphics and the colors and things like that. And they talk about, as you can see here, it was war. They were trying to survive for food, and they killed the animal, and it was an entire story written on the wall. It was magical.
Were you not afraid though that something would attach to you and go back home with you? That's why I'm afraid to go to haunted houses. Like, I'm afraid something's.
So actually, I have a ghost.
Okay.
No, I do, and it turns on lights and everything, and open up drawers, and I'm like, what is going on? But he's friendly, so I'm not gonna talk about that on this.
Casper.
Yeah.
So did it come back with you from Cairo or?
Possibly.
Oh, Scott.
Yeah.
You better keep moving.
When you crawl into these spaces and things like that, and you look at what's chiseled on these walls as far as hieroglyphics and stuff like that, and the art and stuff, like we consider art, where they're literally telling their story. And Oh my God, it's amazing. It's hot. Let me tell you that.
So what time of the year did you go?
March, April.
Okay. So this will be the end of September, early October. So kind of.
So it was
about the same as on the opposite end of when you went, maybe. I don't know.
Whew.
Okay.
Melissa, when I say it's hot, don't even try to be cute. Just try to be comfortable. It's the thing. And I'll send you.
I've already warned her, Tanya. I was like, you get 2 outfits for this trip.
Yeah. I had on my Banana Republic. I don't even know what they call these pants and shirts, and try to be lightweight, and I want to be cute. Like, I was all sweated out. I had my hat on, and I'm like, God. Yeah, I was hot. It was hot. So we definitely went in Africa summer, Egypt
okay.
summer.
Yeah.
But going into these places, like it was, I don't know, like I said, I keep saying that I such a nerd. So I kept having like these magical and spiritual feelings, because when the people would tell the stories of the hieroglyphics on the wall, and they're like, don't touch it. Like, we couldn't touch it or anything like that, but we could take pictures. And probably everything was probably in 3 colors, but the detail of what was notated in these tombs and things like that was amazing. It was beyond my expectations. Bucket list doesn't pay. Like everyone should experience Egypt and the tombs and the pyramids and the Sphinx and everything.
I think
Yeah.
for us, we just honestly cannot comprehend how old, these places are and what they did in that time period. I think for us, it's hard to fathom. Let me ask you this: so when you go to these places, do they already have like the tours are set up? So like you plan to visit, but then they already have tours that go through that tell you about them, or how does that work?
Yeah, so pretty much the guy who picked us up from the airport, who helped us with our visas and stuff like that, he was our guide the entire time. So he had a van that would come and pick us up and do all that stuff. But he was not the storyteller. The people there was the storyteller. And so when we would visit these places, would kind of like take us down and go through everything.
Okay.
Imagine it's like it was in Ecuador that you had to have, a certified naturist or whatever, naturalist or whatever, or the certified tour guides. And so like the guy driving you, he knows where to take you.
Mm-hmm.
He knows how to get you around. He knows how to keep you out of trouble.
Yeah.
But when you get into these historic places, they're going to have somebody kind of like remember at the Equator Museum that we went to, and they had the students there that were studying to be certified tour guides or whatever.
Right.
And so I bet you it's something similar to that.
Okay.
Yeah, it is similar, Scott. Then he leaves it to the people who know.
I gotcha. And so did Adam, did he organize like tickets for you to get in and like take care of all that stuff for you? Or is that something you had to book ahead of time or?
No. So he just told us like how much money. So we did that before we even left, like how much we're going to need today, like, and paid already ahead of time. So we didn't have to do that at the exhibit or at the place we were going to. He was like, okay, it's the number and this is the cost, and we would go in. So we never had to do that at the place.
Okay.
We already knew the cost ahead of time.
So good question. And we always wonder this when traveling is, so Adam, can you like, I want to say Venmo, maybe they don't have Venmo, but something like that, or do you need to have cash? What do you need to do when you have these guides like this?
So no, they take modern payments, whether it's Cash App or Zelle and stuff like that. So we never had to do cash. The only time we gave him cash is at the end of our visit collectively, 2, 4, 6, 8. It was 10 of us. And we wanted to tip him at the end of our trip. And we did that in cash. We made sure that was his money. And we did that in cash. Like whatever we had left over, plus some, we tipped him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how did you plan the activities that you wanted to do? Before you left to go over there, what were some of the resources that you used to kind of plan your trip out?
Yep. So like I said, we were there for a vow renewal. So they did it at a hotel, and we had pictures, and then we had dinner. I think I sent you all the hotel for the Marriott.
That's the hotel we booked.
Oh my God. The grounds are amazing. So did I send you the picture with the pyramids, like in our backdrop and everything? So it's beautiful. And I want to run that for you guys.
So we did book a pyramids view room.
Oh, so what they do at night is up like the pyramids. They have really monetized the experience for people in the pyramids. So they've put modern technology around the pyramids so you can see them at night. So when you have that pyramid view, you're going to have a view of the pyramids and it's going to be uplit.
Oh, nice.
Oh my God. So when you walk out on your terrace, you're going to have pyramids in the background.
Well, we'll get to the hotel in just a minute. So
Oh, okay.
you were going over there, you're planning the trip, you're trying to figure out what are the things that you want to do while you're there.
So we also did, which we haven't gotten to, outside of the pyramid. So we did the Nile. We did boat tour of the Nile, but it was a small piece of the Nile. It was like a dinner cruise or something like that. And whereas like I said, the people that were renewing their vows, they had a Nile trip planned or whatever. It goes longer than what we experienced on our dinner cruise. So we did do the dinner cruise on the Nile. I would say the food was okay, but they had entertainment, and the entertainment on this dinner cruise was everything. One of my friends participated and she was dressed up and spinning and doing her thing. And so we were in full participation. So what we do, like whatever we do, we participate.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. I think that's great.
So when they like, hey, who's going to come up or who's going to join? We're those people. So you guys maybe that. Yeah.
So Melissa, does that mean that you're going to belly dance then on the cruise?
Definitely going to be the person. Yeah.
I guess I'm going to be the person. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, we only did 3 days and it was definitely enough. So you don't want to spend much time in Cairo because it's not beautiful, but you want to get out of Cairo what you want to get out of Cairo. And then you want to leave because it's kind of, you have like kids asking you for money.
Yeah.
It's very destitute. Like it's dirty and grungy and it feels kind of unsafe. So you want to do what you're going to do and get out of there, which we did. Yeah. So I was glad that it was a short part of our trip. But going down the Nile was nostalgic for me personally, but it was just a portion of it. But they do have, so we did a dinner cruise only, but they do have like Nile boat cruises and stuff like that last longer, 7-10 days and stuff.
Right, where you can spend the night and really visit.
Yeah, where you can,
Okay.
Where you can spend a night and stuff like that. So we didn't do that. So we only did a dinner cruise because we were only there for a limited amount of time. But the dinner cruise was so entertaining, and what they had to offer was everything. But don't expect, like I said, the food to be great or none. So the food was good there, but not on this boat.
Okay. So but really for the experience. So you would say definitely. Yeah, definitely.
It was about being on the Nile and just cruising and that type of thing. But I wouldn't say that I wouldn't. Well, maybe I would rate it a 10, but as far as like the experience, it was a 10 because I like for people to like put on a show and show us like what do you guys do in Cairo, and they showed us like we had entertainment and stuff like that on the boat, and it was dancing and it was music and it was food and it was drinks and it was that type of thing.
So you get to experience a little bit of the culture, even though it's obviously put on for, tourists, but it's
yes.
natural.
It was definitely put on. It was definitely put on for us, but I appreciate it. I loved it.
So when I was researching the other night, sunset cruises are very popular on the Nile.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do a Nile sunset cruise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
what we did, and it was enough. It was enough.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially if you go on other places. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have the Papyrus Museum, we have the pyramids and the Sphinx. We need to do the sunset cruise, the dinner cruise. And so then what else should be on the list?
Oh, we didn't even get to the food. Outside of, which was not like on the tourist list, we asked Adam, we were like, so they're, funny enough, being where they are in Africa, you would think there are not big meat eaters and things like that, but they are. So they have restaurants that are authentic and the food is really good where you can go. It was actually outside of the pyramids. And he's like, this is not on the list, like, of places to go. I was like, but like, we're hungry. We want some good food. And we went to this restaurant that was definitely probably mom and pop and not beautiful, but the food was delicious. I don't even want to think about how they prepared it. Okay. Like you don't want to know what they were doing in the kitchen.
So I do know that Egypt is one of those places where I've read people are like, be very careful in what you eat. Don't eat like lettuce and stuff like that that's been washed with the water.
No, nothing
because
water. No, yeah.
And that's the way it is in India as well.
Yeah, nothing washed in the water. So I guess that's probably why we had a lot of meat and like all of the other sides and that accompanied the
Baba ganoush.
Yes, all of that stuff. But no, I didn't eat anything that had been washed in the water because I know better. Being traveled, I don't even do it in any other region in Africa, so I would definitely do it in Egypt. So don't do that. And when you see things are wet and have been washed and served, in like, listen, we're girls, we like, oh, we're gonna do a salad. No, don't do a salad.
No, yeah, for sure.
Don't,
chicken leg.
the vegetables, no, don't do it. Don't do it because you're definitely going to be sick because they washed it in the water that is coming out of. Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, that's really good to know. That's a great tip. So now when you say this wasn't on the list, meaning like y'all saw it and you're like, we're hungry, we're going to go here. And like, it wasn't even on his radar or?
No. So we were like, don't take us to the tourist place. We were probably, we were like, where do you go to eat type of thing. Don't take us to the tourist places. He was like, oh, I'll take you where I go to eat. And he took us where he goes to eat.
Okay. So this was a place that he was familiar with. But that's what we like to do too. Like, where do you, where is it that you go?
To the tourist place. Like we want some good food. Like we want to see mama cooking in the kitchen.
Awesome. Yeah.
We do have to be a little bit careful there, Melissa, because you don't want to miss the safari.
No, that's true. Yeah.
So,
for sure.
So tell us a little bit about the hotel, because you stayed at the hotel where we're going to be staying. And it was funny because I looked on your list that you had sent us, I don't know, several weeks ago or something like that. And that hotel didn't stand out to me at the time because we weren't looking at Cairo. But then all of a sudden I saw the Marriott Mena House, and that is where we have booked our room for while we're staying in Cairo.
Scott, the pictures of that hotel, even on their site, does it no justice.
I love to hear that.
The grounds are beautiful. Like when I went on their website and looked, I'm like, it's more beautiful than what they're presenting.
Which is usually the opposite, right?
Yeah. Like I should post their pictures from our trip. Oh my God. The grounds are amazing. The hotel is good. So the rooms are a typical hotel, but as a hotel in its entirety is everything. People come there who are not staying there because the restaurants are great. The food is great at the hotel.
You have terrific views from what I can see.
They have great views. I'm not sure why, like, when I look at the hotel pictures, I'm like, oh yeah, Scott's not gonna like this. They're gonna be like, why is she recommending this place?
Well, it was funny because we were looking at, because we knew that we were going to use points to stay in Cairo. We got Marriott points. And we were looking at Ritz-Carlton, St. Regis, right? In downtown Cairo. And quite honestly, we were almost like, well, this isn't a good redemption of points because you could book the room for a couple $100. But then all of a sudden this Marriott, the rooms are like, $500, $600, $800 a night. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. What's the difference here?
So the Marriott Minute was everything. But I don't know why they don't have better pictures than what's presented. Like, I really don't know.
They want you to really have that wow factor once you get there.
Maybe that's what I can do for them.
Yeah, I was even hesitant to send you all that because I didn't want you guys to go, really, Tanya? What you're sending me? And then when I was looking at the pictures that they had on the website, I'm like, oh, God, it's ugly. Like, but it's so beautiful and magical.
Yeah, I think Melissa's sister had actually even recommended it to us as well. And I showed Melissa, like, oh, this was on Tanya's list.
Yeah.
No, I'm telling you, like, is everything. But the picture, it doesn't. The pictures that they put on the website doesn't know justice. Like, I have better pictures of the hotel than what's on there.
That is interesting because,
I do recommend that. So going in now, you have to definitely go past security. So like I said, if whether you do the driver that I recommend or a driver, they have to get security checked. Everyone has to get security checked and clearance coming in and out, which I love. So you feel safe because like I said, outside of the hotel, you don't feel safe. But it is more beautiful than the pictures could ever describe. And the food is good.
Well, what would you say was your most memorable experience out of this trip?
Crawling into the tombs and because I'm a nerd, and just looking at the hieroglyphics on the wall and it telling its story.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's me, because that's me. Remember, I either wanted to be an architect or I want to be in tech. So
and I like what you said about it being. It's just.
So I
got
my feel for when you guys go. And I'm pausing here. I probably should be on video because I'm like literally. So when you guys go, and to think that someone hand carved those things. Yeah. Like literally, it was like
or aliens.
Bible. It was spiritual. It was emotional. It invoked so many feelings in me to think about that in a time where we didn't have anything.
Yeah,
you couldn't carve those things. And the attention to detail. Like I could stand there. And I did stand there for like 10, 15 minutes, like, oh my God, look at this. So I had so many, oh my God, look at this, to the point where they were like, Tanya, let's go. Like, let's go to the next one. And I'm like, you guys don't know. This is so, I was the person who was taking it all in. And I'm like, someone with their hands and a chisel and hammer, and they did this.
Yeah.
And so it was magical to me. So Melissa, that was me. That was it for me. So I just been like, oh, let's take a selfie. Oh, let's take a picture. Like I literally was like, what was this person thinking at this time? How artistic did you have to be to do this? And it's so beautiful. And like, I could never do this. Like, I was thinking so many things.
Yeah.
So those were the best parts of me. Whether I had to crawl, whether I had to walk down, whether I had to stand, like whatever the artifact was, it was amazing to me. And it's not made up. It's something that definitely took place during that time. And I was just overwhelmed by the how and because I don't have it now. I type on a keyboard all day. So I could barely write these days.
Right.
So just imagine someone be able to chisel that into some stone. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
It's interesting because I feel like even though our technology has evolved so far, our artistry and our craftsmanship and being able to do things like that by hand, it doesn't exist anymore.
Oh my God. I'm so
You
glad
know?
this is on you guys' list. Like it is everything. Oh my God. I'm like literally feeling it now and thinking back and getting emotional. But it is everything.
I imagine it's one of those places where you're there and it's almost like it's surreal. Like I can't believe that I'm actually here. Right. Because like even from the time when you're a little kid, right? You see pictures of the pyramids and you see Egypt and stuff like that. I'm sure.
And when you go and you have the people telling you how to pose for pictures so you can get your pictures and stuff like that. So I have the picture jumping up. I have the picture like I'm picking up the pyramid and all that stuff because they know how to pose. But to be in the places, oh my God.
Yeah, you have to get those. And it's so interesting that the way you described it too is that this is how they've recorded the history too, right? Like whatever was happening, a war was happening.
And I don't want to ruin it for you guys because you need to experience yourself. But it definitely, everything that's on those walls tells a story about what happened. And your guide will tell you what happened and what that meant. And it's amazing.
No, and I think that's good though to know, like to have a little preface, right? Like here's what you have to look forward to. Do some research, read some stuff, but then to actually go and see that instead of just going into it and say, okay, what are we seeing? I think it's awesome.
I think Cairo should be on everyone's bucket list.
That's a pretty good recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we captured like how many days do we really need for the pyramids and the Sphinx?
3.
So you would recommend going back to the pyramids for 3 days?
Yeah, like 3 is enough because I was definitely ready to go after the 3rd day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So probably 2 to 3 days then, but one trip out to the pyramids is not going to be sufficient.
No, because then there's other tombs and stuff that you need to see, and you need to do the Nile. You can't go to Egypt without the Nile, Scott.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to think about that part. That's why I say at a minimum 3, but I don't think I would have wanted to stay there longer than that. And then we took a short flight into Casablanca after we left there. But we were there 3 days and I was ready to go.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like we're going to have some time to spend at this beautiful hotel that she's talked so much about.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my God, the grounds are so beautiful.
Which will be good. Yeah.
The picture and the food was delicious at the hotel. Like, and I'm not typically a hotel. I'm not excited about Marriott hotel food. The food was good.
We aren't either, but we usually talk about how it's usually a different experience, especially when you go out of the country. You know, when you're out of the US, the hotel food is typically a different experience. Yeah.
On their lawns. And I can see you all those pictures. I forgot I had those in my phone too. And the food was delicious there.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be great. We would love to. We'd love to have those and be able to share those when we.
But that's it. Like I was like, okay, like where are we going next?
Well, that's a great question because we like to end every interview with asking the same 3 questions. So first, what is the favorite place that you've ever visited?
Greece.
Anywhere particular in Greece?
Athens.
I felt the same way about Athens.
So we're talking about Tanya. I'm an urban architecture person. So Athens is city center. It gives me the urban vibe, spray paint, graffiti, and stuff like that. So I'm okay with Athens, and so people like Mykonos and Sarantini and all those, they're beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but you ask me what I like, and it's Athens.
I enjoyed
So
Athens.
I've taken, so flying to Athens and take a short flight to Mykonos and take the ferry to the other islands and stuff like that. But I like Athens.
Well, good.
Okay.
And then what are the top spots that are on your bucket list? So places you haven't been yet. So things that
Japan.
are still there.
Yeah. Japan is one of my places. Australia is another one of my places. So those are the two.
Awesome.
Those
Two
are-
places that,
yeah.
on ours too, and two places that we have not been. And it seems like everybody is making a beeline for Japan this year as well.
Yeah. So those are my two places.
Have you
Awesome.
been to Antarctica yet?
Oh, wait. I haven't been to Antarctica. Oh, I forgot about Antarctica.
Okay, so in 2026, we're planning a listeners trip to
Mhm.
go to Antarctica. So you'll have to join us on that.
Scott, send me the details.
But we've got to start planning. we know that we really wanted to do it next year, but with us doing the safari in the fall, there just wasn't
Mhm.
enough time in between doing the safari and then, because usually you need to do those in like January, February, March,
Yeah.
that time
Yeah.
frame. And so there just wasn't enough time for us to get that pulled together. So
Mhm.
what we're looking at is that early part of 2026. So you can start, saving up, doing whatever you got to do to make sure you can go with us on that trip.
Yeah.
So this is we're hyping it up. This is our hype phase. And probably what I need to do is I need to go on our website and have a little thing where people can say, I might be interested in going, and everybody, put in their email list. Or put in their email. And so I can, keep everybody updated. So we will definitely, you're on the list.
Melissa, and I don't know how it's going to look with me and Scott out at the same time.
We'll cross that bridge.
I am there for sure.
Okay, well, we're going to save you a spot on there.
Okay.
And then, so our last question is, where are you going next?
I don't have a plan.
Oh, we can give you plans. You need plans?
Please give me some plans. So I don't have any plans for this year because you guys know my personal situation. So last year I finalized my divorce. So I wasn't focusing on that because divorce is huge and a big financial thing.
Yeah, well, talk to us because I think
Yeah.
we've got,
So let
we've got-
me know. I'll make it happen because I cook at home. So I'm very frugal in my day-to-day because I would rather spend money on vacations, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
But I don't have anything planned this year for that reason. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm just recovering from this.
well, I think we can give you some ideas that fit within all kinds of ranges. So
yeah, it's not that I can't go. It's just that it wasn't on my mind for this year to travel.
well,
Yeah.
great. Well, what I would say is go to sunshinetravelers.com, look at all the episodes, and we can, give you the information that you need to go on any of those trips. So,
well, let me ask you a question real quick. So do you follow like some of the cheap flight alerts and things like that, and to where if you're just like, okay, now it's time, I've got to go somewhere, I can, book something cheap last minute?
So I do, but I'm like, oh my God. But I haven't, like I said, in the probably last 8 to 9 months, haven't done so. I haven't been anywhere. Scott will tell you, like I've been working.
Yeah, been working. Well,
I've been working.
We'll keep saving up for Antarctica then. So
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Tanya. Can I just say something? I am almost certain that aliens built the pyramids. I wonder if we're going to find out the truth when we get there.
Why would you say that?
How did they get these blocks to within millimeters of each other without modern equipment? And those hieroglyphics, I don't think they invented those. Those look like some kind of extraterrestrial language to me.
Maybe. And sometimes I wonder if all of our technology actually makes us less smart. Like that they were so smart because that they had to be, right? They had to figure this out. So I don't know.
Well, we'll see. We'll see when we get there what they tell us.
So I think we have a good start on planning this part of the trip. We do need to find a guide that can be our handler during this part of the trip. And I actually messaged one today that we've been talking to back and forth a little bit. He was recommended by our guest, John from Tripiamo, that we interviewed in episode 47. John has literally been around the world, and he highly recommended and said he was the best guide that he has ever had. So I'm hoping that we can work that out.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we tried to get in touch with him while we were traveling down in Aruba, and it just didn't work out. So I think now that we're back, and I think you found a way to find him on some, WhatsApp or What's Up or whatever the name of those applications are, right? That we can get those conversations going. One of the things that I want to just point out is the reason that we really need a guide here. And this is true in lots of parts of the world. It's not just because we're going to Egypt, but there are certain parts of the world where it's just extremely helpful to have a local, someone that can help you navigate, around the city, someone that can help you understand a very diverse culture, something that's, completely different than ours. And then someone that can take you to all the places that you want to go to. And those pieces just make it beneficial to have someone help you. And so I don't think we would try to do this trip without a local. I don't think I would recommend to someone that you do it without a guide either.
Yeah, I think it's going to be so much more enjoyable for us, but also educational for us as well.
Yeah, I think this is going to pay off dividends. And, quite honestly, our view is that no matter where you're visiting the world, you need to exercise situational awareness. So, Tanya talked a little bit about that it was kind of scary. Well, I bet you could find that in lots of places in the US as well. But I do think, though, that when you're traveling internationally, we're going to stick out as tourists. There's nothing that you and I can really do to totally blend in and not look like tourists. And so therefore, we just need to always exercise that situational awareness, be aware of our surroundings, and, not put ourselves into any harm's way.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think that's true. I mean, that's true anywhere in lots of cities and things like that. But I think especially here, I think we'll get so much more out of the experience as well.
And can I just say one last thing on this? I did a lot of reading in the last few days about people, you're traveling into, right in the middle of a conflict area. Remember when we went to Slovakia?
Yes.
I mean, we were 100 miles away from Ukraine or less than 100 miles from Ukraine, right? Just because you're going to an area that's in the region, I don't think you should, just say that it's going to be a bad place. There are warnings, but those warnings are true no matter when you visit there.
Yeah, that's probably true. And of course, we will need to keep an eye on it and see how things. I mean, it's still a good, ways away. But yeah, that's absolutely true. And when we visited Slovakia, the conflict in Ukraine had not been going on, nearly as long as it has been now.
Yeah. And we're not going to wander over into Jordan or into Israel, or Gaza. We're not going to go into that. We're going to stay in Cairo. We're going to be in a 4 or 5-star hotel, right, with lots of security. So I feel confident. And then add on top of that we're going to have a local guide, someone that's been vetted out by, like John himself. And so I feel very comfortable in this. But one of the things that I have done a little bit of research on is what we're going to need to wear in Egypt. Now, I've already told you, you're very limited in what you can take from what I'm reading. They're very stringent on the weight of the bags when we get onto the safari part of the trip. And you get in those little small planes where we go from one preserve to another. And so we've got to make sure that we're watching the weight of our bags. So we can't take a lot of extra clothes.
Well, and I will say that already both of the trips that we've done this year, I've still taken too much stuff and wished I had had less. That's definitely my goal.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about it later, but we have a packing list for the safari, and I'm going to hold you to it.
Sounds good.
All right. So we're actually going to be going and visiting Cairo during the cooler part of their year. Tanya talked about how hot it was. And while I believe it'll still be warm, the average temperatures are like 55 overnight up to 90 degrees during the day. And that's going to be hot. So I think layers, light layers that you can wear, and then, pants, that's going to serve us well. And one of the things that I saw is that it's not culturally normal to wear shorts outside of like beach resorts and stuff. So you're going to see most people wearing pants and then shirts. Guys, you can wear short sleeve shirts or long sleeve. You might want to wear the long sleeve for the sun protection, but that's the norm.
So, and you also have told me about when visiting religious sites, you need to be prepared, or I need to be prepared to wear pants, long sleeves, blouses, and then probably take a scarf in the event that I need to cover my head. And then we're also going to want to definitely have a hat and sunglasses to keep the sun out of our eyes, but we'll need that for the safari as well.
Yeah. And, I don't know yet what kind of potential religious sites or whatever we might be going to, but, it's good to have that and be prepared. And these are things that won't take up a lot of room in your bag. And then I think if you do it smartly, these are things that you can also have on the safari.
Yeah, you could definitely use those as multi-purpose. So since it's going to be cooler, then I can try to be cute.
I also read a recommendation to keep small bills handy for things, like tipping, which is greatly appreciated in Egypt. On one site that I read, I think the annual income for some of these tourist type jobs, hotels, restaurants, things like that, somewhere between like $800 to $3,000 per year. So, it's not a lot of money, and tipping is actually in Egypt, it's part of their culture. And so we just need to be prepared to have that available. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of information out there on tipping in Egypt that I've been reading. Some places say they take the US dollars. Matter of fact, on the Visit Cairo website that I went to, they talked about that the US dollar is widely accepted across the country. But someone had posted that dollar bills are hard for them to exchange. Mm. And so like the minimum that they can exchange is $5. Now I read another site that said someone was there just now and said they loved the $1 bill.
Interesting.
So, I think the safe way is just to have small amounts of local Egyptian pounds available for tipping. And here are some guidelines that I had read. So for a tour guide, expect about $15 to $30 per day. And, that would be someone who's with you like a handler, all day long. It would be $15 to $30. Restaurants will normally include a service charge, but if they don't, 10 to 15%, it's greatly appreciated. The cleaning staff at hotels, honestly, I think this is one where we kind of fall down a little bit, but the equivalent of about $2 per night in those Egyptian pounds is what is recommended. And then like bellhops, things like that, $2 to $3 in Egyptian pounds. So the equivalent of $2 to $3.
And that's probably something that in our preparation and our pre-meetings with our tour guide, we can ask some of those questions as well, just so that we'll be prepared.
Yeah. Visa and MasterCard are widely accepted throughout the country. And if you don't have a card that has no foreign transaction fees, go to sunshinetravelers.com, and we've got a couple of recommendations on there where you can look at a card that would meet your needs, but that doesn't have those foreign transaction fees. However, you should be aware that many businesses are going to add a 3 to 5% credit transaction fee to the total. So if you're trying to use a credit card, at a restaurant or a shop or something like that, be prepared that they may add that 3 to 5%.
Now, did you read that specific to Egypt, or is it just that's becoming a little more common?
I read that specifically to Egypt.
Okay.
But we see it even here. So I think that's kind of becoming common. as credit card fees continue to grow, businesses need to offset that.
So also, all U.S. citizens and many global visitors will be required to obtain a tourist visa when entering the country. So they do have an e-visa that can and should be applied for before traveling. So we'll have to definitely look into that. But a lot of those are pretty straightforward.
Yeah, usually your airline will, send you something ahead of time on how to apply for that. You just go online. Matter of fact, I saw it on one of the websites I was at. It's just a link. You click, you fill out the information. I think it said like 72 hours, allow 72 hours for processing. So I don't think I would wait till the night before. It doesn't seem to be that hard to do. I saw the UK was on there. I saw a lot of South American countries. I didn't see like Germany. So I don't know if it's like one of those things where some of the Schengen countries are not required to have that, or what the difference is.
So we'll put a link then so that you can check that out for your travels.
One last fun fact I learned that you should avoid having your feet point at someone. That's a sign of disrespect. Now, don't ask me how you accomplish that, because I would think that your feet are going to be pointing at someone at all times, but it's one of those fun facts.
That's interesting.
We'll make sure to keep you updated as we continue our preparation for this trip. If you have any suggestions of must-do activities in Cairo, please drop me a note, scott@sunshinetravelers.com. We always love hearing your tips and recommendations. We hope you enjoyed this episode and will find some inspiration to help you with your travel journeys. Please consider going on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. The more 5-star reviews we have, the more likely we are to be featured and discovered by others. Make sure to follow or subscribe to our podcast to be notified of the new episodes as they are released. You can now also find all of our episodes on YouTube. You can also find us on Instagram as Sunshine Travelers Podcast. Remember, that is travelers with one L. Most importantly, share it with your friends to help them catch the travel bug. You never know, they may become your greatest travel companion.